Tottenham have lost half of their 20 Premier League games this season, a shocking stat for a supposed Big Six club that perfectly captures just how far they are from being serious title contenders. So if you wanted to argue that it was time for Ange Postecoglou's tenure to end, you could make a strong case. He has managed the club for 58 league games, not a lot, but Jose Mourinho had 58 and Antonio Conte 56 before they were let go. Now in his fourth transfer window, Postecoglou should also be poised to improve on last season's 5th place finish. Instead, Spurs are miles off where they ought to be. A major issue, of course, is that Ange Ball is like a house of cards, where everything must align perfectly for it to succeed. And clearly, the challenges of a demanding fixture schedule and an injury crisis have severely hampered his stubborn yet admirable commitment to implementing his style of play. But while he and his players are not without fault, the problem at Spurs runs deeper than a manager lacking a plan B. Within the circle of blame, the recruitment team, and by extension the ownership, deserve the most scrutiny for why Spurs can't win anything. If the resentment among Spurs supporters towards Daniel Levy has been simmering for 5 years, it has now reached a boiling point, fueled by a sense that the team has played second fiddle to his off-field business ventures. Despite having invested in world-class infrastructure, such as their billion-pound stadium and Hotspur Way training ground, these achievements feel empty when the club's on-pitch performances have declined for so long. Levy has no doubt done a commendable job of building a stable football club, both structurally and financially. Yet, the glaring absence of silverware since 2008 raises serious questions about the club's direction and whether fresh leadership is needed. While money has been invested in their squad, Spurs have also never truly made a mark in the transfer market, and their relatively small wage bill has restricted their ability to attract the best players. Under Levy's stewardship, Tottenham have also failed to commit to a longer-term vision, always caught in limbo between the ambitions of a Big Six club and the realities of a mid-table team. In the Amazon Prime documentary, All or Nothing, Levy explained his decision to fire Mauricio Pochettino and replace him with Jose Mourinho, citing the latter's status as one of the best managers in the world. However, this was an immediate red flag that highlighted his lack of a sporting background. While Mourinho is undeniably one of football's all-time greats, he was on the decline when he took the Spurs job in 2019, and it seemed that Levy's long-held ambition to bring in the Portuguese manager, dating back to 2007, had clouded his judgment. The Mourinho era never really clicked, and after a turbulent tenure, he was dismissed just days before the Carabao Cup final in April 2021. A lengthy search for a replacement led to Nuno Espirito Santo, now in charge of Nottingham Forest, who lasted a mere 17 games before his own dismissal. Then came Antonio Conte, who, to his credit, oversaw Spurs' most successful run of games post-Pochettino, guiding them to Champions League qualification in the 2021-22 season at the expense of Arsenal. However, that work was quickly reversed by a poor 2022-23 campaign and his infamous rant that essentially belittled the club and its players. Yeah, you don't really come back from those. This sequence of managerial changes was no coincidence. Levy believed he had accomplished something significant by building a competitive team under Pochettino and then fast-tracking their way to tangible success by hiring serial winners like Mourinho and Conte. But that's just not how football works. And in 2023, he acknowledged his mistake in hiring the high-profile duo, insinuating that while they wanted win-now transfer strategies, the club was more focused on long-term planning. The reality is that the ideal strategy lies somewhere in between. Spurs may not have the financial resources to attract today's superstars, but they also can't afford to neglect building a strong squad for the present. By the way, if you're enjoying the video so far, subscribe so that you don't miss out on our future videos. Postecoglou has had the unfortunate task of assembling a competitive side from a squad that isn't quite ready to handle his physical or tactical demands, resulting in a concerning lack of consistency in their performances. Since his appointment in the summer of 2023, he has lost 22 of his 58 Premier League matches and is averaging 1.55 points a game, which translates to 59 points per season, typically a tally seen among teams finishing 6th to 8th, not the top 4. While the manager should be held accountable for tactical decisions, such as addressing the troubling rate of chances conceded for starters, he has been constrained by a lack of squad depth and quality due to the club's recruitment strategy, overseen by Chief Football Officer Scott Munn and Sporting Director Johan Lang. Tottenham have spent a fair bit on transfers in recent years, which fans would expect given the club's financial turnover and rising ticket prices. The real issue, however, is the quality of players they attract relative to the wages they offer. Ranking around 7th or 8th as the most generous employers, they find themselves on par with clubs like Aston Villa, Newcastle, and West Ham, rather than their supposed Big Six counterparts. This predicament partly stems from their shift in focus over the past 18 months to signing talented players under 23. While this strategy clearly aims for long-term growth, it has come at a cost, especially after the club lost several experienced players, including Harry Kane, Hugo Lloris, Eric Dyer, and Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, without sufficiently replacing them with players of similar or better quality. Heading into last summer, most of Postecoglou's key targets were Premier League-ready players who could instantly improve the squad. Conor Gallagher had been on the radar since summer 2023, while Pedro Neto and Eberechi Eze were viewed as better tactical fits than Spurs' existing wingers, though deals weren't agreed for any of them. Tottenham also needed a couple of homegrown players to meet the Premier League squad registration requirements, but the free agents, Tosin Adarabioyo and Lloyd Kelly, ultimately joined Chelsea and Newcastle respectively. Now, the club is facing the consequences of last summer's mistakes, particularly the decision to spend a club record £65 million on just one senior player, Dominic Solanke, and allocating more than half of their budget to 3 teenagers. The over-reliance on these youngsters, who sometimes play out of position due to injuries to more experienced teammates, places undue pressure on them to perform. But any comparison between what we're currently seeing at Spurs and the bitter ends of the Mourinho or Conte eras is misplaced. The players continue to enjoy their daily work, the style of play, and the challenge of training, while their performances against top teams show signs of how good they can be. Fans are also attributing as much blame for the team's ongoing struggles on Levy as they are on Postecoglou, something that wasn't the case during the tenures of Mourinho or Conte. Postecoglou still has the support of the majority of players and the fan base, who empathize with his challenges regarding squad shortcomings, and perhaps this dynamic will afford him more time to turn things around. To watch our detailed analysis of Tottenham's struggles this season, click the first link in the description or the card in the top right corner. Daniel Levy has appointed 12 permanent managers and 6 caretaker managers over 23 years, averaging more than one every 2 seasons. However, this time around, he cannot afford for Postecoglou to be deemed a failure at risk of jeopardizing his own tenure if yet another plan goes awry. After all, if Spurs were to abandon this experiment less than 18 months into Postecoglou's reign, what message would it send? That they regretted their decision to start over under a progressive manager? That they lacked resilience in the face of turbulence? Or that they suddenly preferred immediate results over a long-term project? It would leave them with no identity and no strategy. While Spurs may eventually part ways with Postecoglou and enter another cycle of turmoil, doing so without addressing the underlying issues, particularly their lack of players capable of competing at the top end of the table, will only perpetuate the cycle. This all ties back to Pochettino's prior warning about the club's need for a painful rebuild. Successful projects take time to bear fruit, and without that commitment, Spurs risk remaining trapped in a never-ending loop of disappointment. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more football news, stories, and insights. Also, don't forget to hit notifications so you never miss a beat. And with that, we'll see you in the next video.